some of them who were under their spells.
The night was cold and foggy, and the sea was calm and still. The moon illuminated the surface of the water, making it shimmer like a diamond. The crew of the ship were all asleep, except for the captain and the first mate, who were both standing on the deck, looking out over the sea. They were both seasoned sailors, and had seen many strange and mysterious things in their years at sea, but nothing could prepare them for what they were about to witness.
Suddenly, a ghostly figure appeared in the distance. It was a ship, but it was not like any other ship they had ever seen. Its sails were torn and tattered, and its hull was covered in barnacles and seaweed. It seemed to be moving, but it was not propelled by the wind or by any visible means. The captain and first mate watched in awe as the ship slowly made its way towards them. They had heard stories of ghost ships before, but they had never seen one with their own eyes. As the vessel grew closer, they could make out a figure standing atop the deck, a figure that seemed to be looking directly at them. Fearful and unsure of what to do, the captain and first mate stood their ground and waited for the ghostly ship to pass. But it did not pass. Instead, it seemed to be coming closer and closer to them. The ghostly figure standing atop the deck was a woman. She was dressed in an old-fashioned gown and had a veil covering her face. She seemed to be beckoning to them with her hands, as if inviting them to come with her. The captain and first mate were too frightened to move, and so they stayed put, watching as the ghostly woman slowly glided towards them. As she drew closer, they could make out a faint smile on her face. The captain and first mate were filled with fear, but they could not take their eyes off of the woman. Suddenly, the ghostly ship stopped right beside them, and the woman reached out her hand. The captain and first mate hesitated, but eventually, they took her hand and followed her onto the deck of the ghostly ship. As they stepped aboard, they could feel a chill in the air, and they realized that they were not alone. The ghostly woman slowly led them down into the bowels of the ship. As they descended, they could feel an oppressive weight pressing down on them, and the air seemed to become thicker and thicker. Eventually, they reached a large chamber filled with the remains of a crew that had long since perished. The captain and first mate were filled with dread as they looked around the room, for it was filled with the ghosts of the dead. The captain and first mate stood in silence as the woman spoke. She told them about her story, about how she and her crew had perished at sea many years ago. She told them that her spirit was cursed to wander the seas until she could find someone who was brave enough to accept her invitation. The captain and first mate were filled with fear and sorrow, but they could not turn away from the woman's plea. They agreed to accompany her on her journey, and so they began to sail the seas together. The captain and first mate soon discovered that the woman was not the only ghost on the ship. There were many others, all of them cursed to haunt the seas until someone could help them find peace. The crew of the ghostly ship soon became like a family to the captain and first mate, and they sailed together for many weeks and months. During this time, they encountered many strange and mysterious things, and they were constantly on the lookout for signs of the woman's lost crew. Eventually, their search led them to an old shipwreck, and there they found the remains of the woman's crew. The captain and first mate were filled with sadness for the woman, but they were also filled with joy, for finally, her crew had been found. The ghostly woman thanked the captain and first mate for their help, and she asked them if there was anything she could do for them in return. The captain and first mate asked for nothing in return, for they had already experienced enough adventure, and they knew that the woman would be able to find peace at last. And so, the ghostly ship sailed away, and the captain and first mate watched until it disappeared into the horizon. They returned home, filled with joy and sadness, knowing that they had experienced something that very few people ever get to experience. They had made a friend in the spirit world, and they had helped her to find peace.
Please subscribe my channel, do like and comment.